morning. It's Thursday, February 23rd. And today I want to talk about state laws. About one particular state law. Because in this country we have 50 states, as you all know, plus the District of Columbia, and we have Puerto Rico, and we have other islands, and they all have their own laws. So we don't know across the United States what's going on in every single state, and there are many states that have laws that are totally different from the laws in other states for whatever reason. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that it's a hodgepodge because we're not universal in a sense, that every state treats everything exactly the same way. And just take a look at our voting laws and you can understand what I'm talking about, right? Where there should be just one central voting law, which would be a wonderful, wonderful thing if that ever happened. But I'm not going to talk about the voting law. I'm going to talk about a law that existed in the state of Arkansas. And I got this information from the Arkansas Times, which I believe was in favor of this law. And this law was in favor of Israel, and it kind of struck me as pretty strange that the state of Arkansas would have a law on the books that favored Israel in some way, shape, or form, because I don't know how many Jews even live in Arkansas, but it just seemed very strange that the state of Arkansas, which I consider sort of a backward state, and probably has one of the worst educational systems in the country, would have this particular law on the books. So let me tell you what it was about. This law was in effect a loyalty to Israel requirement for Arkansas contractors. And the Supreme Court wouldn't hear the challenge to this particular loyalty law. The law basically said that those who favor boycotts with Israel over its treatment of Palestinians must pay by being barred from doing business with states like Arkansas. Now, the ACLU said that was unconstitutional. So I'm guessing that the ACLU says you just can't bar businesses for how they think. And you can't force businesses to think a certain way. So demanding, I guess, that a business cannot do business in Arkansas if they believe in the BDS movement is something that's not allowed. It's unconstitutional, so to speak. It violates freedom of speech. So the Arkansas Times, which essentially has been fighting against this law for a long time, has lost the legal challenge because the Supreme Court has refused to rule on it, and therefore this particular ban is not considered unconstitutional. I find this law to be very unusual in that a state would put such a law in defense of Israel on its books. That seems a little bit out of character, and I don't believe that there are many states that would do that. That a newspaper, especially a newspaper in Arkansas, would take this position. But I guess you just can't picture, you just can't visualize what goes on in other areas. You have an idea that Arkansas is a backward state. At least that's my idea of Arkansas. And yet the Arkansas Times is a liberal newspaper and is fighting for the rights of businesses to do business in Arkansas without being penalized by a law that's aimed at Israel. It's not even something that's happening within the United States. The law in Arkansas was demanding loyalty to Israel, which I find to be pretty amazing, considering that I am sure that there is not a huge Jewish population in Arkansas, but maybe there's a large enough population, and maybe in Little Rock or one of the larger towns, that carries some economic muscle, and that the state of Arkansas recognizes that fact, and they're trying to act according to what they believe the Jewish population in Arkansas would want. Now, I have no way of knowing if anything I said just now is true or false. I am just guessing at the total situation. So let me clearly state what this decision by the Supreme Court means. laws. Basically, an Arkansas law limiting state businesses with those who refuse to sign a pledge not to boycott Israel is not, I repeat, not a violation of the First Amendment. Now, that decision by the Supreme Court reversed a decision by a 3-judge panel that the law was indeed unconstitutional. But the Supreme Court has said, no, it's not unconstitutional. And I hope that clears it up for you all out there. Now, we all know that the BDS movement in this country has been supported by those who lean left in the Congress. That would be people like Tlaib and AOC and Omar and their ilk, the left-leaners. And I'm not against leaning left, but I'm against leaning left when you take a position against the country that I am loyal to, and the fact that that country has done great things for the world and is always being under attack. They have been sanctioned more by the UN than any other country on earth, yet they continue to do great things for humanity, as we've seen with respect to the latest event, which is the earthquake in Turkey and Syria. They're among the first down there to help out, even though Syria resents them, and Syria is almost trying to not take their help because it looks bad, you know. So in any event, this situation, this BDS situation, is something that is unconscionable and has no business existing. But in the meanwhile, there are those that feel that it is, and for some reason they think that Israel is an apartheid state. And many don't recognize the fact that Israel is in a dangerous part of the world. They're the lone democratic country in that region, and plus it's a Jewish nation, and those are 2 strikes against it. So anybody who stands against Israel is making a big mistake in my mind. And I don't want to get into the politics and all of this stuff. And I can tell you right now, I am very disappointed in Israel and the Netanyahu government and his attempt now to change the Supreme Court and do away with it. That is a disgrace, and that will not help Israel's image around the world. So I leave you with those thoughts this morning, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.